in Kinston at Queen Street United Methodist Church. I am retired pastor here, Dennis Levin. Before we get into the lesson, I want you to meet our pastor. So
Thank you for the clap. Hello, my name is Kim Lale. I am the appointed pastor here at Queen Street United Methodist Church, and it is a joy to serve in this space and a joy to introduce myself to you this morning.
And that's not all.
Okay.
Okay. Recently, Kim was ordained an elder in the United Methodist Church, which is a very high honor and a high responsibility. And to help, I guess, launch her along the way, our class is presenting you with this stole.
Beautiful, beautiful blue Advent stole.
Beautiful. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, that is
Look at that.
pretty. Oh, I love that.
Thank you all so much. Gorgeous.
So it is our honor.
Show the camera.
Looks good on me.
Thank you. Thank you all.
I love that.
So we are very glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
That's it.
All right. I'll let you return to your lesson now. See y'all in a little bit.
So today's lesson is not quite as enthusiastic as that last session. This is 1 Samuel chapter 25. And there are a number of things that go on in chapter 25 that help us to understand a lot about the character of David, David's ostensible relationship with God, and what's going on generally. If you've been following the class, you know that David has been on the run from Saul. He and Saul in the previous chapter had a reconciliation. Now I thought it was interesting that while they reconciled, in other words, Saul realized that he was not in the right and he was being wicked, and he should not have been pursuing David, and he acknowledged that David was going to be king, okay, instead of his son Jonathan. He made all those acknowledgments himself. When they parted ways, Saul went back to his palace, as it was, and David went back to the wilderness. So while there was a reconciliation, there was not an accommodation. Okay? And we have, you know, I think in human relations, every once in a while we run into that. That we get to a point with somebody that we've been adverse with, and we settle and say, okay, there doesn't need to be any kind of a problem between the two of us, but you go your way and I'll go mine and we'll be happy. It was something like Lathan's farewell to Jacob. The Lord watch between thee and me while we are absent one from another, which basically said, if we ever get together again, and God help you. But anyway, they parted company. Okay, so now David is off with his 600 ruffians. Okay, these are men of ill repute, and you got to understand, he's basically still has, I don't know if you would call it an insurgency. He has an armed camp in somebody else's kingdom. Okay? And we've seen this in guerrilla operations in different places in the world. In Colombia, you had FARC, and you had the same thing going on in Peru, and you had Che Guevara running around doing horrible things. I don't know why people put him on a T-shirt, but he was a creep and a half. You know, these are insurgencies, and sometimes the insurgencies work, and sometimes they don't. A lot of it depends on what kind of external support they can get. But while you're running around as an insurgent force, even though David is not actively attacking Saul, David is in his territory and he's building up support for the time when he becomes king. Okay, so he's working on gaining credibility with the local population.
Kind of like politicians today.
Something like politicians today. Okay, I think it's kind of interesting now. I have my own political views, but I see what is happening in one political party where there is an insurgency taking place. Okay, and I, over the course of my career as an intelligence officer, I have seen these insurgencies before. Watch out. Okay, watch out. And it starts out with the death of Samuel. Now understand, you have 1st and 2nd Samuel, right? This is the last reference to Samuel in 1 Samuel. So, why is there like a 2nd Samuel if Samuel's not in the 2nd book? I don't know, just a question. Anyway, now Samuel died and all Israel assembled and mourned for him. They buried him at his home in Ramah. All right, now this is interesting. Let's say Samuel anointed both Saul and David. Now I've just been to a number of funerals for clergy, okay? And a lot of clergy came together from different places to celebrate the lives of these gentlemen and their ministry. Samuel dies. He has anointed Saul and he's anointed David. I wonder if they both went to the funeral.
Of course.
Have any of you ever been to an awkward funeral? I would think that would be a very awkward funeral. Okay. Anyway, all Israel they assembled. Okay. Then David got up and went down to the wilderness of Paran, or he might have been. The questions in the translation might have been the wilderness of Moan, but anyway. Here's what happens. There was a man in Moan whose property was in Carmel, okay? He was a Carmelite, okay? The Carmelites were one of the most prominent families in Judah. Okay, so he's a Judean, but he's a Carmelite, so he's like, you know, the elite. The man was very rich. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. He was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now, the name of the man was Nabal. Nabal. What does that mean? Okay, you know how in the Old Testament names matter? Okay, Nabal means idiot. Fool. When Eli saw Hannah and thought she was drunk, he called her Nabal, okay? You find references to Nabal, idiot type, stupid, we call it the galloping dum-dums, okay? But that was Nabal, okay? And not only was he stupid, but he was mean, okay? And the name of his wife was Abigail, which, by the way, is kind of like smarty pants. She was intelligent, okay? The woman was clever and beautiful. See, that's why they called her Abigail. But the man was surly and mean. He was a Calebite. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't have Carmel. Calebite. Calebites were, remember Caleb, who was the number 2 to Joshua? Okay, that's the clan we're talking about, so you know this family is some prominence. David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep. So David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, "Go up to Carmel, and go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. Thus you shall salute him. Peace be to you, and peace be to your house, and peace be to all that you have. I hear that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us, and we did them no harm, and they missed nothing all the time they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your sight, for we have come on a feast day. Please give whatever you have at hand to your servant and to your son David." All right, here's the deal. The sheep shearing time is when you're going to get your profits, okay? I remember what offerings were like when the tobacco crop was finally sold. And so, in order to graze your sheep, you got to move them around a lot, okay? And evidently the territory where they were moving the sheep around was territory that David and his ruffians were in charge of. And they did these people no harm. You could lose sheep to thieves and ruffians, and you know, if somebody wanted to rip somebody off, you know, that would be the way to do it. And David's men evidently protected the shepherds and the flocks, so they didn't rip them off. So David felt like he had some creds with Nabal. All right, let's drop back 5 and punt here, okay? This doesn't have exactly the same characteristic as a mob protection racket. But there are similarities, okay? You didn't want anything to happen to your sheep or your shepherds, right? So I'm just sending some guys. And the guys, I mean, where I grew up, guys would show up in your store and they'd say, "You got a nice store here, don't you?" Well, it'd be a shame if something happened to this store, don't you think? My dad had a major engineering project in Maryland, and a representative of the local union showed up, trying to ensure that they would have no union problems on that construction site for a fee. Okay, what David is doing, he's trying to collect. And one would think that this is just, I mean, he's being very polite, he's being very respectful of idiot, okay? And he's saying, please, you know, if you could, you know that we've been good to you, could you likely be good to us too, okay? Now, again, remember that what David is doing is kind of like an insurgency. He's not attacking Saul, but everybody knows that David and his armed men present an issue within Saul's kingdom. Okay? We also know what Saul did to the priests of Nob when he annihilated the entire community of Nob because he thought that they had given some support to David. Okay? So here's Nabal, and they're calling him an idiot. And remember who commissioned this story. Okay? Who paid for this story to be written? Anybody know? David.
How could he have?
Because he was king.
Yeah, but, I'm not getting to it, but
He was
I've looked
king.
it up and studied it, I can't find anywhere where it says that David had anything to do with writing 1st and 2nd Samuel.
The only people who write this stuff are
But David was
commissioned
long
writers.
dead.
Huh?
But David was dead.
No. No. David, the death of David was related by the people that Solomon commissioned. Okay? This story happened. Somebody recorded it. Who would record it? Who was literate enough to record it? Okay?
Well, David probably, because we know he wrote all these things.
Well, we know that he commissioned all these things. And yes, I think David was literate, and I think he was a poet and a musician, and he was very talented. But the Psalms, by and large, were either written by or commissioned by David. He had writers. David had writers, okay? And the first time a story like this would get written down might have been written down first by some people that Saul commissioned. But then you have a new king who is also called the royal editor. Okay? And remember, these people are not writing the Bible, they are writing
They're
the
writing their
story
life, their
of
story,
how things
yeah.
came about. And if you're the king, well, it's just good to be the king. Okay, so he's going to call Nabal, I don't know what his name was, but he's going to call him the idiot. Okay? So you have, when you are in a country where there is an insurgency going on, the insurgents and the government are both going to be vying for your favor. Okay? And if they don't get your favor, then the consequences can be dire. Either the government will whack you or the insurgents will. We saw this in Vietnam all the time. Okay, so you had the Viet Cong coming into a village at night. You saw the government coming into the village during the day. They both demanded loyalty, and if you weren't loyal, bad things happened to you. And how do you balance that? You know, how do you manage that in order just to survive? So Nabal is a very rich guy. Okay? If you're a very rich guy, who are you more aligned with? The insurgents or the king? The king. Okay? Because the king's got more guys. Right? Okay. So it is, they call him an idiot, but really he's not. He's telling David, I don't care, you looked after my guys out in the field. If I do something for you, what's Saul going to do to me? Right? Saul isn't mentioned at this part of it, but the implication is really there. I don't think this guy is such an idiot. Okay? I think he's got his loyalty with Saul. And what he says to the people that David sent indicates that he is loyal to Saul. Okay? So, when David's young men came, they said all this to Nabal in the name of David, and then they waited. But Nabal answered David's servants, who is David? Who is the son of Jesse? Okay, so this is the same kind of diminutive thing that Saul was saying about David. Son of Jesse, that's son of Jesse. Okay? That's how Saul referred to him. There are many servants today who are breaking away from their masters. So he's calling David a runaway slave, basically. Why should I support you? Shall I take my bread and my water and my meat that I've butchered for my shears and give it to men who come from I don't know where? Okay, and he's right, because the guys that David has are people that are escaping debts, and you know, they're creeps and they're ruffians. So David's young men turned away and came back and told him all this. David said to the men, every man strap on his sword. See what's going on here? And every one of them strapped on his sword. David also strapped on his sword, and about 400 men went up after David, while 200 remained with the baggage. All right, where is David getting his baggage?
I guess he's plundering other people.
Yes, he is.
Poor David.
Poor David. Okay? You know, I mean, David doesn't have a source of income. He's got 600 men to take care of, plus strap hangers, women and stuff that are coming along with him. Okay? So, how's he feeding them? Well, you show up with 600 men, you say, hey, trick or treat. You know? But that's how he's getting his stuff. There isn't any other way he's getting his stuff. He's not into the royal till. Okay.
Yeah, this guy is still chosen by God.
Absolutely.
How does this work?
Yeah.
You'll have to ask the editor. Okay? Now this, okay. And,
There's the key right there, asking the editor.
yep, but we're going to see how this works out. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master, and he shouted insults at them. Yes, yet the men were very good to us, and we suffered no harm and never missed anything. We were in the fields as long as we were with them. They were a wall to us, both by night and by day, and all the while we were with them keeping the sheep. Now therefore know this and consider what you should do. For evil has been decided against our master and against all his house. So he is so ill-natured that no one can speak to him. Okay, now this is one of his subordinates talking to the lady of the household. Okay. In cultures, especially agricultural cultures, that have slaves, okay, the man of the house spends his time at the tea house talking to other guys. And the people who are running the household are the women. Okay? So if you are a wealthy landowner and you have slaves, you don't bother yourself with things like money or management or any of that. You are the final authority in the household, but the person who actually runs the household, who manages all the slaves, that's the woman of the household. Wife number one, usually. Okay? And that was, by the way, the system that was predominant here in the South during slavery, okay, in the antebellum period. Okay, so Abigail, if a servant has something to say, they're going to pass it on to Abigail. They're not going to talk to Nabal. Okay? Then Abigail hurried and took 200 loaves, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep ready dressed, 5 measures of parched grain, 100 clusters of grapes, 200 cakes of figs. She loaded them on donkeys and said to her young men, "Go ahead of me. I am coming after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. As she rode on the donkey and came down under cover of the mountain, David and his men came toward her, and she met them. Now David had said, "Surely it was in vain that I protected all this fellow has in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that belonged to him, but he has returned evil for good. God do so to David, and more also, if by morning I leave so much as one male of all who belong to him." So David is going to kill all the men of the household. Okay? Family, slaves, anybody, if it's a male. And by the way, the reference to male, you can look it up, but it's pretty crude. There's a lot of crude language in the Old Testament. Just want you to know. But that's what he's going to do. He's going to kill all the men in the household. All right? So Abigail's trip is like Jacob coming back to Esau. Jacob sent all this stuff to Esau before he ever showed up. Okay, and then he offered his apology. So this is the same kind of thing going on. When Abigail saw David, she hurried and dismounted from the donkey and fell before David on her face, bowing to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, "Upon me, O Lord, alone, my Lord, be the guilt. Please let your servant speak in your ears and hear the words of your servant. My Lord, do not take seriously this. For as his name is, so he is. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your servant, did not see the young men of my Lord whom you sent." Okay? So she says, "I'm going to take all the blame, even though I'm blameless. Now then, my Lord, as the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, since the Lord has restrained you from blood guilt and from taking vengeance with your own hand, now let your enemies and those who seek to do evil be like Nabal." Now, who would that be? Who would be like that would seek to do him evil? Saul, exactly. "And now let this present that your servant has brought to my Lord be given to the young men who follow my Lord. Please forgive the trespass of your servant, for the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house." Aha! Here's this other thing. A sure house. Remember the sure house of David? Okay? So she's prophesying that David is going to be king with descendants on the throne. Okay? So this is the same language. This is the same language. What she is doing now, okay, Samuel's dead. Okay? The next time we see a prophet pop up, it's Nathan. Between Samuel and Nathan is this woman who is making prophecies.
So is she making a prophecy, or is she heard that, is she aware of everything that's going on between David and Saul? And she knows.
Absolutely.
Okay, so is it a prophecy, or is she just saying what she has already heard?
That's what a lot of prophets do.
They hear from God, so God's spoken to her.
So evidently God spoke to her. And the reason, okay, I'll get into it in just a minute, why we think she's a prophet, okay? Please forgive trespass. If anyone should rise up and pursue you and seek your life, the life of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living under the care of the Lord your God, but the lives of your enemies he shall sling out as from the hollow of a sling. Reference Goliath. Okay, and the stones coming out. Okay, now that's important too. And so she's saying that God will eliminate David's enemies. Okay, when the Lord has done to my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and has appointed you prince over Israel, my Lord shall have no cause of grief or pangs of conscience for having shed blood without cause, or for having saved himself. When the Lord has dealt well with my Lord, then remember your servant. Okay, what's going on here? What if David goes out there and kills all these guys? Okay? If David goes out and kills all these guys, who's he killing? He's killing Judeans. Who does David need when he becomes king? Judeans. Okay? And not only that, but he's killing people of the house of Caleb. Whoa. Bad stuff. So she's saying, what you're proposing is ill-advised. Okay?
See, David's a little bit of a hothead himself. He's got an issue with Nabal.
Yeah.
What do you people who are just doing what they have to do?
That's his style.
But it's all styles.
Yes, ma'am.
It's everybody's style.
Everybody's style.
Kill everybody.
It's in fashion.
Okay, so tell me, when the Lord has fulfilled for my Lord, Lord God,
Yeah.
but for my Lord, who is she speaking of when she said for my Lord?
David.
Okay.
Okay, so what she's saying is, you don't have to come in here and kill everybody, because God's going to work this out. That's what she's saying. And if you have blood guilt, it's going to be harder for you to justify your monarchy. That's words of wisdom.
At least he listens.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. And
A guy like,
I'll tell you, she's really cute, and yeah, he's going to listen. So, yeah, she's a beautiful woman. I mean, you know, that gets your attention.
But we have to, but God's in here, because he's given Abigail, he's prophesizing to her, telling her what to say.
Exactly.
So God is in here intervening.
Yes, and we're going to see that. Okay? David said to Abigail, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who sent you to meet me today. Blessed be your good sense, and blessed be you who kept me today from blood guilt and from avenging myself by my own hand. For as surely as the Lord God of Israel lives, who has restrained me from hurting you, unless you had hurried and come to me, truly by morning there would not have been left in Nabal so much as one male." Then David received from her hand what she had brought to him. He said to her, "Go up to your house in peace. See, I have heeded your voice and I have granted your petition." So he goes back. Okay? Abigail came to Nabal, who was holding a feast in his house like the feast of a king. Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunk. So she told him nothing at all until morning. Let the guy sober up. Wise words. In the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him. He became like a stone.
Wow.
Got that? Okay. So he's the first stone getting cast out of the sling after Goliath. Okay? All right. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal and he died. Shazam. So David didn't have to kill him.
Dying left and right.
Yeah?
Or she didn't have to kill him.
Well, we don't know exactly how he died. We just know that
That's
whatever
true.
it was divine providence.
Right.
Okay? When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, "Blessed be the Lord who has judged the case of Nabal's insult to me and has kept back his servant from evil. The Lord has returned the evil doing of Nabal upon his own head." Then David sent word to Abigail to make her his wife.
What did she think about that?
When David's servants came to Abigail at Carmel, they said to her, "David has sent us to take you to him as his wife." Okay, one of the translations is, David decided to woo Abigail. This is how I woo Abigail. I'm going to send my guys out, and they're going to say, "Okay, you're going to be his wife."
Wow.
Not especially romantic, okay? But David has a habit of doing this with women.
Yeah.
Okay? In this case, God killed her husband. In the case of Bathsheba, David killed her husband.
Yeah, but that hadn't happened yet.
No, we're getting to that. Okay.
So, of
So,
course, he's setting the stage.
yeah,
But you
okay.
know, in my mind, here again, it's
Yeah.
just in my little mind, David's doing all of this stuff, maybe not this particular part, but if Saul hadn't attacked him, and if Saul hadn't always been after him, would David have done any of this?
Probably not. He'd be in the palace.
So instead of David being the bad guy, Saul's the bad guy.
Nice try.
Well,
Okay.
Is Abigail his first wife?
I
No.
was gonna ask that.
No, I don't think so.
but where does it say that he's had another wife?
I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
How
It
many
might
wives
be.
did he have?
She might be.
He did have a lot.
How many stars are in the sky?
How many stars are in the sky? Okay. He had concubines too.
Wow.
Okay. So. Okay. David said, okay, she rose and bowed down with her face to the ground and said, "Your servant is a slave to wash the feet of the servants of my Lord." She is saying in nice terms, but in terms that they understood, "I'm not worthy to be a prostitute to your servants."
What does that mean?
It means that she is overwhelmed
Oh, she's
by the
not
honor.
worthy. She's not worthy.
Yeah,
sorry,
she's
I'm
not
sorry.
worthy.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't.
I'm with you.
Okay, she's not worthy to be even a prostitute to his servants. Okay, that's what she's actually saying. Like I say, there's a lot of crudities in the Old
No,
Testament.
but no, she's excited. She wants to be his wife.
Well, yeah,
But she says it.
but I think more than anything else, she understands exactly where she stands. Okay,
So if she said no, what would have happened?
bad things. Okay? Abigail got up hurriedly and rode away on a donkey. Her 5 maids attended her. She went after the messengers of David and became his wife. Okay, now, up until this point, David's broke.
I was gonna say, who got all the ball stuff?
There you go.
Oh, boy.
Okay? So not only does he get the pretty girl, he gets all the property.
So they must not have had children, or did it matter?
They did have children. She had a son named, I think, Chilion. Okay? It's also here, David also married
Yeah,
Ahinoam of Jezreel. Both of them became his wife. Okay, now, Ahinoam was the mother of Ammon, who raped his sister later on. Okay? But she is also a prominent Judean. So what David is doing is he's ingratiating himself with the most powerful tribe, Judah, and he's marrying into the tribe. Okay, he was a, Bethlehem guy, but now he's Judean. He's got roots in Judah. He's got roots in Moab. He's got roots in Judah. Okay, David's making alliances.
But who's in control?
Well, ostensibly God is, okay? Saul had given his daughter Michal to David's wife to Palti, son of Laish, who was from Galim. Okay, now what's the deal? David and Michal never actually married, but she was betrothed, which means that there was a contract. Okay?
Yeah, but he gave her to another, Saul gave her to
Saul
another
broke the
person.
contract.
Right, it wasn't David.
No, and this is going to be tragic later on. But David always felt like he was entitled to Michal. Okay, right now he can't do anything about it because he ain't king. But watch out. Okay, so anyway, that's chapter 25, and we're going to see that things continue to go downhill a little bit in chapter 26. So God bless you all. I'll see you next Sunday.